Hey everyone, welcome to the Church Brand Guide podcast. My name is Michael Prasad. This is the place where I want to help you cut through the noise so you can see more people showing up to your church. As a result of that, you get to see more life change taking place and you get to see more people choosing to contribute to the vision that God has given you. You know, as I work with churches all around the country, just over and over again from month to month, I tend to find patterns. And one of the patterns is that many church leaders just don't know how to let people know that the church is there to help them to live a better life in all areas. You know, it's financial, it's relationships, it's all the things that really matter. Um, Pastors feel like if people only knew what the church was and how it could help them, that man, they would just show up and they would just be so grateful to have this in their life. And I totally agree with that. And so one of the things that we do as I work with the church is help to put together a brand strategy. So branding is something that I found in the marketplace where companies go through a process and they find out the pain points of their audience, and then they create some messaging that helps to quickly present the solution to the problem that their audience has. And so that's one of the things that we do here at Church Brand Guide is I want to guide, when I work with somebody as a client, I want to guide them through, hey, what are the pain points that you are really good at helping with? And then let's create some language around that so you can communicate it really well. And then also let's design a website that communicates it. Let's design the logo. Let's design a lobby area that really presents that well, because people judge a book by its cover, and we just want to make sure that people understand you quickly. So that's kind of the big idea of today's podcast episode. We're going to be diving into the solutions. Actually, we're going to talk about 4 solutions that we can present as a church to the problems that people have in your city. And these solutions are they're universal. Like everybody, every church in whatever area of the country you're in, whether it's a big city or a small city, these are 4 solutions that everybody needs in their life. And as a church, you can communicate this very effectively so that people see the need for your church in their life. I'm actually talking with Lucas Forsthoff today. He's one of my friends, one of my clients. Started off years ago where I met him at a church conference. We're part of a network of churches, and so I went to this conference and I met Lucas, and we got into a good conversation. He needed some help rebranding a church that's been around for over 20 years. His dad was the pastor, and he's the creative director there. And we just developed a great relationship. I remember going out to Cornerstone Church. They're just north of Detroit, Michigan. And I had a great time just hanging out. We did a strategy session with the staff of the church and got some really good insights to the vision and the calling of the church in the city. And then through that, we created logos, websites, signs all over the property, a bunch of collateral materials. And I've actually been working with them ongoing for maybe 3 years now. So we've developed this really good relationship. And even through COVID and everything that was happening there, Lucas and I were in touch and just sharing ideas about what other churches are doing, what is Lucas learning, how's he implementing it. And they did really well coming through the pandemic season. Of course, we're still in it at the time of this recording, but they're doing really well. They're trying a lot of different things, and it's sticking. So he's going to share some of that as well in this episode. So I hope you get a lot out of this. Lucas does a really good job of just presenting just things to help you. His heart is just to present ideas that they've tried that has worked for them, and hopefully it helps you as well. So yeah, we're going to tackle those 4 big solutions that your church can provide and talk about how we can communicate that very effectively so people say, oh wow, yes, that's what I need in my life. Let me go to church this weekend. So we're going to dive into the podcast episode right after I tell you a little bit more about how you can book a call with me so I can consult with you about your church, and maybe I can help you to create a great brand for your church. Most people don't understand why they need your church. They're driving by every weekend and they have no idea that you can help them become the hero of their story. Maybe you're a church where you see a lot of visitors coming, but they don't stick around. They leave through the back door and they don't come back. That's why I'm passionate about helping churches to brand themselves, because it's where we get to communicate very clearly who we are so people can understand us quickly. When they understand us quickly, that's when they decide to buy in. This is a 3-step process. The first step is to have a brand strategy in place that's right for your church, and out of that, create a logo that represents your story. The second step is to create a website that serves as a digital platform to welcome new guests. The third thing you have to do is make sure your lobby experience is great. It's welcoming and it helps people understand your church quickly, because they're going to make a decision whether or not they're going to come back within the first 5 minutes, which is way before they hear the sermon. These 3 areas are the foundation of a good church brand, which sets a church up for growth. Here's the problem. You're not a branding expert. You didn't get a degree in branding, but people do judge a book by its cover. And I want to be your guide. I want to help you get this right. You should be able to focus on the ministry that God has called you to, and I want to help you to get the rest of it in place. Go to churchbrandguide.com and schedule a free 30-minute call with me so I can learn about your church. From there, we can decide if I can help you build your church's brand. All right, so I'm here with Lucas Forsthoff, and Lucas is with Cornerstone Church, and he's going to be hanging out with us today and just sharing a little bit about what Cornerstone Church is doing. Lucas, why don't you just start off by introducing yourself and Cornerstone Church?
Yeah, I'm Lucas Forstoff, and I work at Cornerstone Church. It's in Highland, Michigan, which is a suburb of Detroit, North Detroit, really far from the city. Is I think about a 40-minute drive from downtown from where we're at. But actually, it's funny to think that we're considered the most northern suburb of Detroit, and so but we don't have any of the benefits of a city. We have the benefits of a rural area. As a matter of fact, I think the city we're in, we're most known for our equestrian lifestyle, which is horses. Seriously. So which we laugh when we think about that, but this is where the Lord has us. And so we're here.
That's awesome. I met Lucas several years ago. We kind of bumped into each other at a conference, and then I just jumped on to help rebrand and create some new things for the church websites and logo and some other things like that. It's been a wonderful several years of just working with Lucas and his team at Cornerstone. So thanks, Lucas, for jumping on today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So the pandemic is happening right now. We're about almost a year into this pandemic, where things started to shut down about a year ago. So it's affected everyone. Every church has been affected by it. So right off the bat, why don't we just talk about what that's been like for you and for Cornerstone Church?
Yeah, it's stressful, like anybody would imagine. And I think that when it first happened, it was just like, okay, let's listen to the experts. Let's let's be as safe as we possibly can. We don't really know what this is, but it's dangerous, and we don't want to risk it. We don't want to put anybody at risk. And so, shutting down at the beginning was what we did in March, and it almost felt like we had no choice, and so we just shut it down, and I felt like we had to completely rethink how we're going to get our people to church. And we had a live stream going for a number of years before this. So I felt lucky in a way that we had something in place already. And so we started utilizing the idea of live stream, and in a way where we're doing all of our communicating through live stream. And I remember doing that very first Sunday. It felt, I was at church because I serve at church, and I serve with the creative team. And so I was here, one of the few that was in the building, making sure that everything is going well, streaming well. And then we rewatched the service like a few days later, and we all really did not like the flow and the energy of the service, and all that stuff. And so we right away completely reformatted our live streaming experience, and then began right away to just change how we communicate through the internet rather than in person, and that has had a positive impact on our church services now. We started back up. I think we started back up in June, meeting again, and have continued to meet in person since June on Sundays. But what we did is all the tweaks that we had made to live stream, we kept those. We kept like a lot of the big ideas that we created, and so now we live stream our 11 a.m. service on Sundays only. So we have one live stream service a week, and the rest are not live streamed. So we do a couple different services on Sunday mornings. 9 a.m. is not live streamed, and our 11 a.m. is. And as a matter of fact, those two services have completely different flows and feels to them. We communicate with our live stream audience in the 11 a.m. service, and we give them directions, and how to let us know you're new, how to give. If you want to know more about the church, there's numbers to text, there's ways to let us know you're new, and all that stuff. So all that cool stuff, we realized that we needed to figure out, we're still implementing, which has been really, I think, a positive.
Yeah, and it's been great to see that. From the outside, I've been working with you a little bit on, hey, how do we implement maybe something to the website, or those type of things. And I've seen some of the things you've done, some of the innovations that you've done for the church. There might be, I'm trying to think of specifics, like you might have had, somebody on stage speaking, and then you cut to a different camera where they're maybe in a different location and they're giving announcements.
Yep.
You've also done some stuff during the week where, you were doing some devotionals and Bible studies and some other things, and creating a nice presentation out of it with maybe a screen in the background, those type of things.
Yep.
What's been the biggest takeaway what the biggest lesson you've learned through all of it?
Spiritually, or just logistically as a church?
Man, that's a big question, right? Let's do logistically. Like we're talking branding stuff, so let's just do that first, and then we'll come back to the spiritual.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we learned is, let's see here, communicating through a whole idea of communicating just digitally is very difficult.
Yeah.
So that really, honestly, is what we've learned. And it can take time to set up the ability to communicate well digitally. How do you, like, for example, everything you need to do to get somebody who's on the live stream for the very first time, to get them to tell us they're new, fill out some information, and then we can then begin to talk to them, maybe with a phone call, to get them to come to the church now. And that, to think about through all of that, how do you communicate that? How do you have the website set up to do that? So I think that's been the biggest lesson learned, is communicating digitally is very difficult.
Yeah, very true. I think everybody has been experimenting with different ways to do that. How do you close the gaps? What works? What doesn't work? You hear an idea from one church and you try it at your church and it just doesn't work.
Yep.
That type of thing. So,
Yeah.
what about spiritually? What have you taken away spiritually?
Well, I will say this, that though going to church now is a little different than what it used to be. So what I mean by that is this, before COVID hit, I'd come to church because it was like, okay, teach me how to be a great father, how to be a great businessman. I want to know how to succeed in life. And it feels like since COVID, it's the shift. There's a shift in the spirit realm, I feel like, where it's like, okay, right now, we're coming to church because we just want to worship God. We just want to be together. And it's gotten real simple. Things have simplified, tremendously simplified. And it's brought into our services, it has brought a powerful move of God during our services. It's been absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that's really good to hear you say that. I was reflecting on even some of the services we're doing in South Florida. So I'm in South Florida, you're in Michigan, but we're seeing some of the same results. Like people are just really eager to get together, safely. We do all the stuff to make it as safe as possible, but they're very excited to get together. Yeah, so let's talk about a little bit of the branding process. And what I try to share with churches is, this big idea of, hey, let's share the benefits of our church. So in marketing world, like if you're trying to sell a new widget or thing that you created, um, you try to sell the benefits of it. So you've all heard the analogy of the drill. Like you're not buying a drill, you're buying the holes that the drill produces. Um, so the idea in church world is how do we communicate that well? And Cornerstone, I think, does a really good job at this. And what I've done is oversimplified it for a lot of my clients that I work with. It's really just it's four different things that we can do as a church or communicate well as a church. One is that people basically they need hope. So can we say, hey, this is a place where you can find hope?
Mm,
Number two, people need community. So how about, hey, as a church, we just communicate that like this is a place where you belong. Number three, people need to find purpose for their life. So how do we communicate like this is the place where you can find a purpose that's greater than yourself?
yeah,
And number four, people want to be significant. They want their life to make a difference, to make an impact.
yeah.
And again, the church is so good at this. So Lucas, why don't you talk about a little bit about how you help people to, let's say, find community at Cornerstone?
Yeah. Well, there is just right now off the top of my head that I was as I was preparing for this, I thought of two things that Cornerstone does to make people feel like they belong. One of them is our small groups, and we call them connect groups. We always are encouraging people. You need to get into your connect group, and that I mean you can build your friendships and your spiritual family in there. And then another one is serving. How wonderful the wonderful relationships you can build when you serve shoulder to shoulder with somebody. You get into the battlefield together and serve in and serve the kingdom of God. That really does create this bond, this relationship, and you really feel like you begin to belong to the family of God.
That's so good. That's so good. Our church is very, very young. So we don't have a lot of like connect groups that are really thriving and going. But what we found is that we have a lot of serve teams at the church where people serve together. And that's become a really big place where community takes place. That's
Mm-hmm.
very true. What about hope? Like, how do you inspire hope?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I would say that we also do this through two things as well. As I thought this out, we make sure during our services that we have every week. So we do 3 services a week. Sunday mornings, we have 2 services. And then Wednesday nights, we have a service at 7 p.m. every single week. And we always try very hard. I mean, we really do try very hard to create a service that does bring people the message of hope. And we pour a ton of work and effort and creativity into these services to enable that process. And then the second thing that we do to create hope is with our small groups, our connect groups. We try very hard to make them a place where you can find friendship, you can find a place to belong, a community that when you are in need, you can call this group up, they can help you. You know, in my mind, I always think about this. Your best friend is the person you call when you need picked up from the airport and you need help moving. Who are you going to call to do those things? And it would be my desire as a pastor here at Cornerstone Church that somebody in need would first and foremost send out that text message to the whole connect group and say, hey, pray for me. I'm about to encounter something's happening in my life. Pray for me, or be there for me. Can somebody come help me do this? Let's respond as a group together. So I would say that those 2 things right there, the services and your small groups, boy, I would hope and wish and pray that those things would give people true hope in their life. And they do. I watch it happen every single week at church. It's great.
Yeah, and I can tell the focus when you said like you really focus on delivering hope in your services. There's a difference. Like I feel like when you have a focus, it's evident. Like you can see that the songs you sing, the transitions you have between different elements, it all speaks to that big idea.
Yep.
So when we were going through the process of branding and creating a brand strategy, I remember us talking around some of that. Like, what do we do? What do we do really well? Like, how do we do this? How do we simplify and just do these things really, really well?
Mhm.
What about purpose? You've got I think some sort of a membership process, right?
Yeah.
How do you help people find purpose?
Yeah, we do two things. So we initially want people to take this really simple class. It's called Starting Point, and it happens. I think right now we're doing it every other month, and it happens at church on a Sunday morning from 11 a.m. till 12:45, and it's in one of our rooms here at the church. And it's a class where we share with them the history of the church, the mission of the church, the vision of the church. We go over ways for them to serve, which is wonderful to see. They take a gifts test. They find out information how to become a member. And then at the very end, the pastors of the church, Pastors Tim and Rhonda, they come in and for the last 15 minutes of the class, they answer any questions that the people may have. And we do all this stuff through testimonies, live testimonies. There's some people in there, some elders in there who share the vision and the mission of the church. Also, we share the history of the church through the videos that we've created. We share the mission of the church through videos that we've created. So it's a multimedia, multi-dimensional experience. And along in that class, they get some treats and some snacks and some refreshments. And it moves really quick, and it's really inspiring to hear the history of the church. It's funny, but I would say sharing the history of the church, where we started, how we got where we're at, is what I think is the most inspiring for people to hear. For some reason, people love to hear about how Cornerstone Church started and how we got to where we're at. And then they're excited about jumping on board when they hear about the mission and the vision of the future. They're like, whoa, this is a place that's doing something. I want to be involved. And so they can take that gifts test, which lets them see where they're gifted at. Maybe not in like a physical gifting, but they have a gifts in relationships, and there's an emotional assessment test in there and things like that. And they realize, well, there's something I can offer. And then so they can find their purpose there. And then always, we tell people, hey, one of the best ways for you just to find out what you're good at is just to serve and try it out. And so if you think you're interested in children's ministry, serve in there for a little bit. If you end up not liking it, just go ahead and politely exit and try to find something else for yourself. But yeah, those two areas really do help people find purpose, the Starting Point class, and then just encouraging people to serve.
So I love how you put a lot of emphasis on that. It sounds like you said, it's a multimedia experience. You provide snacks. It's you put your best foot forward,
Yeah.
so that people that are coming and are interested in being part of the church, they get the best experience possible, which makes a lot of sense. Again, from a brand perspective, that really moves the needle for the church. Like,
Mhm.
people will come and be part of the church and contribute in whatever ways they feel they should. So it makes a lot of sense to put a lot of emphasis in that area. What about making a difference? Like, people want their lives to matter, to make an impact. So how do you do that at Cornerstone?
I think the best way at Cornerstone is serving. I mean, really, honestly, serving, and then hopefully one day leading a team. And so, even if you're leading, you're still serving. So those are tremendous ways to make a difference. And then also Cornerstone, it has been a missions-minded church right from the very beginning. And we try to take a number of different mission trips every single year. And you want to talk about making a difference. You go on a mission trip overseas and do some tremendous ministry for a week or two. You really will make quite a difference, and you'll come alive in your walk with the Lord. So those two areas are wonderful examples of how Cornerstone allows people to make a difference in our community. And within serving at Cornerstone Church, we do a lot of outreach into the community as well. So we do, it feels like local outreach. Every week there's an opportunity for local outreach here at church. And so people love to get involved with that. We run buses every single Wednesday night into our community. We run 2 buses for the children, and we run 4 buses and a van for the youth. And so those are areas too, where you want to serve and make an impact in the community, go ahead and join the bus ministry. And my friend, you're on the front lines of reaching the lost. You're on the front lines of praying for the brokenhearted, of giving food to the hungry, drink to the thirsty. You're literally doing, the work of Jesus. It's pretty powerful.
I love how your messaging is so on point with everything. So that's a big part of what we when we came in, we started working on, hey, how do we say some of this stuff? You had a lot of great things happening, but then how do we create buckets, so to speak, so people can understand it? And then how do we communicate it? So even like, I might design a promotion for Easter, or I might do something for the church, but I have all these great phrases and different things that we already have in place that we can pull from. So for me, like even from a designer perspective, it's like, man, I love working with Cornerstone because you have like all this stuff I can work with. It's really
You do have
good.
a lot of stuff.
So what do you think you hang your hat on? Like, is there one of these that really stands out to you the most, where Cornerstone is like excels? Like you do all these really well,
Mhm.
but is there one that stands out?
Yeah, we try, and we've talked about this. We do this on purpose. There is one area that we want to excel in. We've had meetings about it. We talk about it. We put most of our money into it. Most of our meetings every single week are designed to make it the best possible, and it is our Sunday morning church service. That's where we put our greatest amount of effort. It is where we put our energy, we put our creativity there. That's where the rubber meets the road for us. That is it. And so that's our best foot forward. That's our best effort. That's what we do the best. And so, that's it. That's it. I mean, seriously, anything else, we don't put as much effort into, honestly, we don't. And so, but because we really feel like it's the best way to make the greatest impact on the kingdom of God. It's our multiplied effort.
Oh, that's good. Just for context, can you tell us a little bit, how long has Cornerstone been around, and on average, like how many people come on a Sunday?
Yeah, so Cornerstone was started, um, I, I think around 39 years ago. And there was a different pastor here, and then he had called my father, we were living in Ohio at the time, and he asked my dad to come up and be his youth pastor. And my dad prayed about it, and the Lord told him no. And so he called him back and said, sorry, I'm not going to do it. And he goes, oh, okay. And my dad was really bumming about that, because it was always his dream to work in the ministry. And the Lord told him no, and as one of his job opportunities. And a year later, this pastor called him back and said, hey, I'm calling you. I want you to be the pastor of the church. Interesting, huh?
Wow.
And the Lord told him, yes, this is what I have planned for you. And so he came up. My dad came up 35 years ago. And so the guy wasn't pastoring the church for very long. And he took it over, and took a small white church building with a steeple, the classic 1880s. I'm talking the year 1880s is when this building was built.
Wow.
Yep. White church with a steeple, took it over. No air conditioning, no sound system. Can you believe that?
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And grew it from there. And if you've seen our building now, which Michael, you've seen our building now.
Come a
And
long
so,
way.
come a long way. Yeah. Come a long way. Thank you, Jesus. And I don't know how many people we currently have on Sunday morning, but I think attendance is I think we'll reach about 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. And we have different churches of different sizes. So I just want to give them a little bit of context. We know it's not, all about numbers and attendance and all that stuff, but it matters because it every number is a soul. So, but yeah,
Yeah,
also go,
absolutely.
go ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what are you excited about as you look ahead for Cornerstone? Pandemic, we talked about some of that, the adjustments that you made, but what are you excited about?
Yeah, I'm really excited Interestingly enough, even during COVID, we've gotten a lot of new people to attend the church, and there are a lot of very young families and young adults have been coming to the church, and it's incredibly exciting to see. They're coming in, they are new, some of them are new to the faith, and they are catching fire for Jesus, and it's really a blessing to watch. Others of them have just come in looking for a church. Maybe they moved to the area and they heard about us, they came, and they're sticking around. And so this is exciting about the future. Also, I also wrote down another thing that I'm excited about is all the missionaries we support. Most people don't know this, but we support a lot of missionaries around the world. And I'm always very excited about the work that they're doing around the world, and how we support them. It's very exciting to see. I'm telling you, we get weekly video updates from our missionaries around the world, and it's awesome. It's so awesome to see. So that's very exciting to me. I'm very excited about that. Also, right now I wrote down our young people, our youth and our young adults, and even our children are very hungry for the Lord right now. And they are very passionate for the Lord, and it's really exciting to see. And they were passionate for the Lord before COVID, and it's exciting to see that even during COVID, that with the limited capacity we have in our building, they're coming out and they're excited about Jesus and they're passionate for the Lord, and it's very exciting to see. And I'm feeling really blessed being able to be around for such a time as this at our church. It's great.
Wow. Yeah, that's great to hear. Love it. And it was so good to be able to work with you well before the pandemic to get, several things in place, so that when the pandemic actually hit, like you guys had a lot of systems in place. I mean, that were able to help you communicate well and keep things rolling. So I guess one final question is, if somebody is trying to go through this branding or they're thinking about rebranding,
Mhm.
what is it that they need to know or about doing it? Like, I just remember even working with you, like you said, your dad, he's the senior pastor of the church. You were in the room. We had several other people in the room. A little side question. How did your mom and your dad, like, how did they accept this process?
Yeah, very interesting. Well, anybody who is okay, every leader likes new ideas when they're his ideas. People have a hard time. Every single person has a hard time with something new if it wasn't their idea. And I feel like it was a slow process. They might not think, if you were to ask them, they might not think it was slow going because of their perspective, but from my perspective, it felt like a slow process. It felt like something where we presented it to them a while ago, let them chew on it for a while, kept bringing it back up, talking about ways that we could rebrand the church and make it happen. And the great thing was, all along the way, they were open to it, wanted to know more about it, wanted to know why we should do it. And every single time, we could honestly answer their questions, they started to get excited. Honestly, they started to get excited, and they're like, let's do this. I'm on board. Let's go. And, there is different levels of rebranding, and we needed a complete rebranding. We needed the full package. And so we brought that to them. We were open and honest with that, saying that we think, hey, Pastor, we think this is everything we need to rebrand. It's the full package. It's the kit and caboodle. You know what I'm saying? And they said, well, let's go. Let's do it. If we're going to do it, let's go all the way. And so it was fun. Honestly, it was fun. It wasn't like pulling teeth, which some things can be when it comes to change. But this was not pulling teeth at all. They were ready to go. They were excited about it.
So what would you say to somebody who's out there thinking about, maybe a church leader, maybe another pastor, they're thinking about, should we do this or not? What would you say?
Well, I would encourage people to look at the way that you are communicating to your community, and honestly ask yourself this question: is this communicating to the public what I want it to? And if you're worried about how you're communicating to the public, or don't know how you're communicating to the public, then I would check this out. Just check it out and find out more. Check out the Michael's website, give him a call, email him, whatever the case may be, and just begin to talk it out. And it can take a while from start to finish, but it's okay. At least you're starting it, I would say. And make sure that your branding is communicating to the public your heart as a pastor. I think that's really the most important thing. The people that you would love to see come to your church? Are they driving by and noticing your stuff and saying that's a place that I'd like to check out?
Yeah, that's so good. And it's why I'm super passionate about what I get to do. I feel like God has given you as a church leader and the pastor of the church a great vision. And then we just have to communicate that in a way that's clear. So people see what God sees really. Ultimately, like that's the perception that we want to have through all the stuff that we do. And the truth is, in our culture, especially, people judge a book by its cover.
Mhm.
So you have to make sure that you're presenting something where people say, okay, I believe that's relevant to me, to the point where I'm going to go check that out.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Any final thoughts, Lucas?
Oh, I agree. I think every single pastor wants people to be attracted to their church.
Yeah,
Every single pastor. And there's different ways to attract them. And if you're weak in one area, like branding, website, logos, communicating your vision digitally, if you're weak in that area, then you can get better at it. And you don't have to do it alone, which is fantastic, which is why I absolutely love you, Michael, so much, and your team over there, is because we weren't doing it alone. All the questions were answered. And so God attracts people to the church, and there's other ways to attract people to the church too. And so I would say get great at all of them if you can.
all right, Lucas. Hey, thanks again for everything you've shared with us. How can people connect with you if they'd like to just get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook if you want to. Just my normal name, Lucas Forsthoff. And I'm sure that's probably somewhere written out. Um, uh, I can spell it for you, but if you
Yeah,
don't, that's fine.
we'll put that into show notes of the episode. So check out
Yeah.
the show notes and you can figure out how to spell Forsthoff. Actually, why don't you go ahead and just spell it out real quick for people that are driving down the road?
Yeah. So Forsthoff. So Forsthoff. So
Okay.
Lucas is normal. So anyway, or you can email me, and my email is really simple, lucas@ignited.org.
No, I love what you guys have been doing, and it's been great to see and to be a part of it actually. So we started the process and then we just stuck with you. So it's been awesome
Yep.
to be a part of it. And when I was thinking about inviting people, I was like, man, I have to have Lucas on because they're doing such a great job, especially
Thank you.
through the pandemic and everything that you've made adjustments on and innovated on. It's been so good to see it. So
Yeah.
hey, thank you for being on the podcast.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Church Brand Guide podcast. I'd love for you to subscribe and leave a review. This just helps us to get out there to more people when you do it. Hey, also don't forget to go to churchbrandguide.com and schedule a free 30-minute call with me so I can learn more about your church. This way, we can see if I can help you build your church's brand.